Well, hi everybody. It's meteorologist Joe Chaffee and Joe Rayo on the Wednesday Joe and Joe Weather Show. A little bit of a late start. Understand that there are some technical issues with the chat board. I don't. It's not me. That's on the other end. So
Well, I have something
hopefully
to
it comes
complain
back.
about. I have something to complain about, and that is that Facebook
Please.
Facebook decided to change my Facebook page to this ridiculous. I don't know how to. I'm still trying to learn how to use this thing.
I
It's
must be the
horrible.
only one that likes it. I guess I don't have any problem with it. I
Well,
actually got it. I got it back months ago. I got it months ago. And so I got used to it. I guess I was, when they do these rollouts with these technical things, they do it a little bit at a time. Somehow I got in, I was in an early rollout, and I actually liked it. I got used to it, and then all of a sudden one day it went back to the old way. So I had to.
there is a way. There's a methodology. I am told that you can go back to the old, or as they call it, the classic. If it's a classic, why get rid of it?
Yeah, I saw somebody put some link on it. Joe, it's you got to get used to the things change, so just change with it. Embrace change. Don't
You know,
reject it.
you know how long
Embrace
it
it.
took for you and my wife to convince me to
To,
use an iPhone from the rotary phone?
no, I understand. I get it. Um, but what are you going to do? Either that or you get you wind up getting left behind unless you want to be. I mean, I don't think that's not
Now,
necessarily a bad thing. But
whatever.
yeah, so yeah. I guess the chat board's not working right. Everybody was talking before the show, and then all of a sudden it just kind of stopped. And I've posted a few things up here, but I'm not seeing it moving. So hopefully YouTube will resolve all that. Welcome to those of
Did
you
you just
who
see what I just put up there now?
hang on.
I just put I just put hello.
No,
Hello.
I don't see it. So there's something definitely wrong with the chat board.
Oh,
But I want to give a big welcome to everybody that's listening to this show on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. Welcome aboard, and if you don't know, if you missed the live stream or you don't have time to replay the video on my YouTube channel, you can always listen to it as a podcast, and you can find it on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and any one of a whole number of other places where podcasts call home. So check it out. All right. So, how much rain did you get last night?
um, I think my wife said we got something like 2.55, no, 2.85 inches
Wow, very
or
good.
thereabouts. And I might also point out that's not from my Davis weather station, which again crapped out. But fortunately, we have a tried and true News News 12 rain gauge on the deck out in the back, and that's what she's now consulting. So 2.85 inches, Joe, more than I had expected. I thought we'd get maybe about a couple of inches. This is far in excess of what I had anticipated, and it was really coming down last night at
Yeah,
around 2:30 or 3 o'clock.
I had about an inch and three quarters, and this is as of 8 a.m. So, and for New England, it's missing what fell during this morning into early afternoon. But this was what everybody's been waiting for in terms of the drought situation in New England, especially. It needed a really solid round of rain, and you see those red streaks that occurred in a band there of 3 inches plus running up through central Delaware and then through western New Jersey. Just west of you, Joe, there's like 2.5, 3 inches, and then you see the 3 inch band in western Massachusetts. And I imagine this is up to 8 a.m. this morning. So when we take a look at this tomorrow, you can we'll add that to it. And um, again, we were looking for something that was going to be significant in terms of putting a dent in that New England drought, and I think it worked. Areas south of New York City are not in a drought situation at all. Everything's kind of normal, but you can see the rainfall was pretty bullish, right down into southeast Virginia and North Carolina. Areas getting an inch and a half to 3 inches. Large area of anywhere from a half an inch to an inch and a half, going all the way back into West Virginia. western Pennsylvania, except for the far western part of the state. Then it really sort of tailed off. And there's some much needed rain up in upstate New York, where folks are fishing the Pulaski River and Lake Ontario, where rainfall was needed there too, because the river levels, I was told, was low by the great Shane Muckey, who is a pal of mine who fishes up there, and he was happy with the rainfall that he got. He said about an inch and a half. And also we see rains that fell down in Florida. So this was an up and down East Coast event. It played out, at the very least, it played out according to guidance, and I think in a lot of places it wound up outperforming. So that's a good thing this
It
time
is.
around.
It is. We could have spread it out a little bit longer, or more than just several hours, so we didn't see maybe as much runoff. But um, beggars can't be choosers, and this is a start, I guess, right?
Yeah, when they come, and we'll see what happens. I just in terms of the next five or 6 days, Mr. Rayo, I threw in the chance that there could be maybe a shower or two Friday morning with this secondary cold front that's going to come through. And then, even though the GFS is the GFS regular GFS seems to be lost about Sunday night into Monday, all the other models, including the parallel GFS, have a low in the eastern lakes that redevelops off the Virginia coast and runs up to about 40 and 70. And we wind up getting some rain Sunday night into the first part of Monday. So I kind of went along with that idea.
Right. I think they said we haven't gotten word yet as to when they're going to make the move to make the parallel GFS the new GFS. Right.
Right.
We're still not sure when that's going to happen.
I thought I saw something last week that said it had already been migrated, but then I looked today and apparently it hadn't been. So maybe they're still tweaking it. Take a look at this trough on the Canadian satellite. I don't know how much of a delay are you? Um,
Probably about 40 seconds. And while we are, while I'm awaiting the next map, it looks like the chat board is back up and running now.
oh, glory. Okay, very good. This is a deep trough in the eastern part of the United States. Look at that flow coming down out of Canada, across the Great Lakes into the Northeast. There's that cold front that went on through, and now, of course, it's racing up across Nova Scotia and into Newfoundland. The developing low up already into Labrador. You got a big upper low over Hudson Bay, and that's just the big driver here. Uh, this is going to be driving things in the weather pattern for the next week or so.
Yeah, it looks like that's going to be the story. But then, as we get to about maybe the 7th or 8th of October, things are going to flip once again and back to probably a milder, if not, dare I say, warmer weather pattern. Maybe for the rest of the month, we'll see.
Well, we'll see. I don't know. The guidance was kind of mixed today. He seems to be going back and forth on what's going to happen out in the longer term. Another strong system coming into southwest Canada, but it seems to be bypassing the Pacific Northwest, at least initially. There are some clouds. There are some clouds offshore, some low clouds. Also seeing a little bit of wildfire smoke showing up again in parts of California and out in the west and points north. I know they had that new wildfire that broke out the other day. And here's the U.S. view. It is so nice, though. This is actually, except for the clouds and showers that are around the Great Lakes, and of course the old frontal system that moved on by, much of the country enjoying some really delightful early autumn weather. I like it. This is my favorite time of year. When it broke out blue sky and sunshine, so beautiful this afternoon with that nice breeze. It just felt terrific outside.
It did. It did. The grass still stayed a little bit on the wet side, so I'm going to have to force a stall on doing the lawn until probably tomorrow. And it was a little bit breezy as well. I do need to do the lawn though because uh, so many leaves have fallen just in the last few days, Joe. And a lot of people have made note of the fact that the changeover to the colors are taking place earlier than the last several years.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think that that big cool air mass that we had a couple of weeks ago that brought those early frosts through upstate New York and through New England, I think that has a lot to do with it. I wonder too how, whether the combination of the kind of, we didn't we weren't dry the whole summer. It was toward the latter part of August and through this month of September, especially the last few weeks, that areas got relatively dry. But there was an ample amount of rain going into that, so maybe that's having some impact. We also know that the everything got browned up by the tropical storms, the two
Right.
tropical storms, with the wind off the water, all the salt in the air browned up all the everything that was north facing. So perhaps a combination of all those factors is the reason why you're getting these leaves turning. But I think the cool air mass and the frost, those early frosts, have a lot to do with it.
It could be. Although where I am here in Putnam Valley, the lowest temperature so far 38. Now we've been under a couple of days where we had frost advisories, although I guess I didn't get up early enough to check to see whether or not there was frost on the old pumpkin. But we haven't had really anything close to a hard freeze yet. But now we're getting into October, so we'll see what that has in store for us again in the next week or so.
Well, we got a little bit of shower activity going on around the Great Lakes, and that's because of that deep upper trough. But my God, look at the U.S. radar. You take that away, those scattered showers from across Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan, and some of them kind of moving through Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. There's nothing going on. I mean, the southeast, there it's quiet. Florida, for the most part, except for a few scattered showers off the Florida southeast coast, is quiet. The plains, the whole west, couple of showers popping up south of San Diego, of all of all places, and also a little bit further north, halfway between LA and San Francisco, a little bit of offshore shower activity, but it's quiet. October here is usually a dry month. Is it not the driest month of the year for New York?
I'm not sure about the
For New
I'm
York
not sure
City?
about precipitation. I'm not sure about precipitation on average, but it is in the eastern half of the country one of, if not the clearest months of the year. Again, around here we usually see about 16 or even 18 clear to partly cloudy days. And as I noted maybe a few days ago, as clear as it will be in October, it seems like we all of a sudden the pendulum swings right back over the other side. November into December, all of a sudden gets very cloudy and very unsettled. So
Yeah.
enjoy the nice weather in the coming days ahead while it lasts.
Yeah, I think that's when you start flip the switch and you start to get those more wintry systems. Here's the let's see if the 21Z surface map is, and usually it is, and it is in fact. So front number one, just moving out of eastern Maine, getting ready to cross Nova Scotia, and low pressure, you see it there, up moving into Labrador. That's a looks like it's about an 80, a 78-ish low, not too shabby. Here comes the second arm and second cold front. There's actually a weak cold front moving through eastern Michigan, northwest Ohio, where you get a bit of a wind shift behind it. But it's actually this one that's up further to the north. That's the one that'll come through here Friday morning as it swings around. There's not a whole obviously if you look up and down the east coast on the radar. As we saw before, there's nothing going on. So this front really doesn't have too much to work on. There might be a little bit of energy with it. You'll be able to grind out a shower or two when the front goes by early Friday morning. But behind it is going to be the quote unquote coolest of the cool air that's coming down. I think when you measure it against the air mass we had a couple of weeks ago, it's probably no cooler than that. The one a couple of weeks ago may actually wind up being a little bit cooler than this one is, but this is still um, enough that it's going to drive temperatures below average. And in terms of rainfall, the next 7 days, clearly the West is done. But WPC is showing a half an inch or more in eastern Pennsylvania and over New Jersey, and a quarter to a half an inch across much of upstate New York and New England, with half-inch plus amounts in northern Maine. So this is they're looking at this and thinking the system for Sunday night and Monday is going to be producing the rain you see here. And tropical moisture is going to be busy down in Florida the coming days. We have the potential for tropical storm development in the Northwest Caribbean. plus this old frontal boundary is going to be nearby, stalled out, and there's going to be chances for rain. And the models and WPC is very bullish here in terms of rain for Central and South Florida, showing 2 to 5 inch rains over the peninsula, the central and southern Florida. But you can see there's bigger rains showing up to the west, southwest in the Gulf, and also to the east. So it's not beyond imagination that even heavier amounts might push in from the west into western Florida from Tampa south, and also eventually into eastern Florida. So some wet weather there. A little bit of wet weather in the southern plains, eastern Oklahoma to Kansas, quarter to a half an inch over the next 7. A little less as you get up into the northern plains, and of course still bone dry, pretty much bone dry all the way out to the west coast. They need that upper ridge has to break down in the west. Until that breaks down, they're not going to see a drop of rain there.
Right, right. And you're right about the Western U.S. It looks like they're pretty well done for the next week or so. And yeah, we'll just, but you know what? Again, just the Monday system, this Friday system, that's really, not going to amount. It doesn't look like all that much. And all the other days, the weekend looks great. And beyond Monday, it looks like it's going to turn nice once again, Tuesday and Wednesday.
Now, I don't know why the operational. Well, I know why the operational GFS is doing it. I don't know why it's doing it. Uh, so, uh, but it is, and it has to do with how it's handling this whole upper trough. And this is tonight. We've got this broad bowl look, as I like to call it, here in the east. You see the ridge in the west, so that flow is pretty healthy here. That comes down out of Canada. The westerlies go all the way down into Georgia, but here's your ridge in the west, and here's your next arm, the next short wave that is swinging around that system in Canada. So you're moving it along. You bring up that cold front on Friday, and that goes by. Then there's another short wave that drops in for Sunday. You kind of see it there. But the GFS, the operational GFS, just keeps it very flat and moves it along. Really doesn't do very much with it. And then as we go through next week, get a bit of a little ridge here in the east, and then another trough drops in late next week. So that'll mean another cold front. And then another ridge position gets in. But at this point, Joe, this is where the western ridge does start to break down, and everything begins to move rather quickly from west to east. But it's hard to say. I mean, the model. I'm looking at this, and this doesn't look particularly warm as you get into the mid-month there. It doesn't have that big upper high like it did yesterday. But just going back to Sunday night and the Monday, uh, here are the differences. So here's the GFS come Sunday morning, and if we switch to the European, you'll notice that that next shortwave on the next trough on the European is much more defined, and it's deeper right in there. You got that sort of that V-shaped look of the shortwave, and then that swings around and actually makes a nice little cutoff low there in southern Ohio. So this would argue that you would have a dying primary low and maybe some kind of secondary low that forms near the coast and runs up to the northeast and brings rain. The thing is, Joe, the Europeans doing this. If we look at the Canadian, uh, even the Canadian lends support with a much more vigorous system. The icon, we can take a look at the German icon model. Here's what it looks like on the surface on the icon model, where it has a '07 low east of Atlantic City and a nice little soaking rain event here for late Sunday night and into Monday afternoon, if this is right. But its upper air, Joe, is like the European also. It's got a really vigorous little upper low there that it drops into Ohio and into Northern Virginia. So and also one other model that kind of lends support to this is if we look at the earlier, now the new parallel GFS has just started, but the earlier parallel GFS is kind of like the European to an extent. You see it here. A little bit different in terms of the orientation, but it still has a very vigorous shortwave trough that it moves into the east. So I'm kind of thinking maybe the operational GFS just doesn't seem to have. It's missing something here. Uh, it's either going to be the big winner or it's going to be the lonely loser. going forward.
The outlier.
It is. Well, they always throw one in there that makes you think, well, maybe it's right. I don't know, but um, judging from the fact that we just had this amplified system and we have some room in between because Friday's system really isn't going to do very much. Maybe the operational is missing something by keeping things pretty flat. I don't know. We'll see. But I kind of went with the idea that we're going to have some rain Sunday night into Monday afternoon, later
Oh,
Sunday night into Monday afternoon. I'm sure Sal Blandino would think differently, but what are we going to do?
well, he should be happy because it looks like most of the weekend, if not maybe all of it, will be dry, and maybe we can hold off on the wet weather until after sundown on Sunday night. We'll
And
see.
here's what
We're doing our best, Sal.
correct. So here's what the GFS, of course, again, Thursday night, it's late Thursday night, Friday morning, couple of showers, doesn't really do very much. Nice high for the weekend, 60s. I went for low and mid 60s for highs and 40s to around 50 for lows, 30s in cold spots for Friday night and Saturday night. And then here's your next vigorous system with that low over Lake Huron, and you see that the coastal low pops up there and then moves off of Cape Cod. And while that's all going on, we have the model actually picking up. Let's look at that tropical system that is forecast for the Northwest Caribbean. I don't know if the European did anything with this today. Let me take a look. We'll take a look at that. And I mean, it still has this sort of large area of lower pressures, but it really doesn't do much with it. So I'm not so sure why it's missing it. The other ones have it, but uh, pressures are low in that whole area. I still maintain that we're going to wind up getting a couple of systems out of this because pressures are going to remain low in the northwest, in the Western Caribbean, and up into the southern parts of the Gulf of Mexico for the next week or more. So I think there's room for a couple of weather systems to come out of this. And I'll take a look at the let's take a look at the upper flow of what's happening. The the trough in the east. Part of the problem is going into the weekend. This trough does reach down into the Gulf of Mexico, but it doesn't really come far enough south to do anything with it, Joe. I'm wondering whether if something does form here in the Northwest Caribbean, there's no real flow to move it around. So it may meander for a little bit.
It doesn't seem to me. I'm looking at the model that I look at for the European that goes actually at 6 hour increments, but it doesn't show much of anything in the
Yeah,
Gulf of Mexico.
not
It's it's
not sure why. No, maybe it's onto something. Doesn't I would have to lean to the fact that we're still in this pattern where everything wants to spin up. I mean, we didn't get to beta by accident here, so it just seems to me that the trend is your friend. You got to go with the idea that something's going to spin up there, but for the most part, anything that forms down there is going to have a tough time moving because of the fact that there's really no flow until late in the fork, late next week, you start to get maybe a little bit of a west-east flow across the northern Gulf of Mexico. So I'm not so sure. I'm not sure exactly what's going to come of this. Meanwhile, you take a look at the GFS, and you see the GFS kind of picks up more, and so does the Icon. Icon actually picks up even more than the GFS does. But on this new run, just to run it through, I'll tell you what. Let's go to a tighter view of the Western Atlantic here, so we could take a close up. But you kind of see that there's sort of broad low pressure all throughout the tropical the throughout the Caribbean, and there's your low, which by Friday there's some kind of surface low that forms in the Western Caribbean and quickly closes off. If you believe it, it's a tropical storm by Friday night. It looks like it's just right now from here. You think it's going to go right into the Gulf of Mexico, and then it just sort of hangs around there along the northern part of the Yucatan Peninsula, and then just sort of does this westward drift and southwest drift into the southwest Gulf. You still have lower pressures, though, back all the way through here. So something else tries to pop up another little low pops up there early, the middle part of next week, and then that runs up into the eastern Gulf. So I think this I think that's possible. I think that's possible that you could see a couple of systems coming out of this gyre that's setting up down there across Central America.
Didn't we start off this tropical system with a gyre? Didn't
Yeah,
I
we
think
did.
remember that?
Yeah,
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 yeah.
that happens every once in a while. You get these gyres, these sort of broad lows that form in the over Central America, and they have little spokes that go around, and every once in a while the spoke sort of takes over and winds up developing into something. So I think that certainly has potential for watching. We'll give it another view here. You can take a look at what the icon model does with it, and the same idea here. That low that just sort of meanders around. The other thing is, I'm thinking there's probably some shear here because the precip so sharply cuts off on the northwest side with that high to the north. There's probably dry air with that 1029 high that's down into southern Missouri. That may be the big problem here, Joe. That you wind up having that cool high that comes down from Canada and heads down into the Tennessee Valley. That's all dry air that's going to be into the Western Gulf. So I think that's the reason why this system is going to wind up having a very tough time developing into anything. I can
Well, the long
let's
range.
let's check the go ahead, the long range.
Well, the long range from Climate Prediction Center for 6 to 10 and 8 to 14 days has a good chunk of the country underneath below normal precipitation. Very dry conditions. The only place that's above normal would be across the Florida Peninsula. Everywhere else down across the Gulf Coast, Texas Gulf Coast, Louisiana Gulf Coast, down there, dry conditions too, which is kind of unusual, but that may be the thought that maybe all of this dry air from Canada is going to help to suppress the moisture. We'll see.
Well, I just put up the total precipitable water on this, and if looping this along, there's dry air from the southwest and over Texas that goes into the western Gulf, the whole Gulf of Mexico, from the northern half of Florida. If you draw a line from there southwest across the Gulf, just north and west of the Yucatan Peninsula, there's a ton of dry air there. And in fact, when that surface low develops, the dry air actually gets wrapped around it and gets pulled down into southern Mexico and over toward Honduras and Nicaragua, and Belize. So I think that's where the problem lies. That there's that dry air, that big high to the north. At least initially, it creates issues for these systems to develop. That in time, the dry air does retreat later next week, but uh, that might help. That might wind up uh, giving a boost to a second system that could form. We'll see. And the Hurricane Center, by the way, has continues to indicate that the tropical wave. This was the 2 p.m. outlook, 10% probability in the next 48 hours. Obviously, nothing's going to happen in the short term. 60% chance over the next 5 days. And I'll bring up the satellite here really quick, and we'll take a look at what's happening now in that part of the world. I don't think you're going to see very much, but we'll give it a look. And yeah, you're starting to see convection blossoming out in the central Gulf, the central Caribbean. It's all pretty disorganized, but you see it there, folks. You're starting to see some convection break out there. So I think maybe by Friday we'll probably have the beginnings of a tropical depression in that particular region. So we'll give it a look see tomorrow, and we'll see what the Hurricane Center is doing. In the meantime, you and I are back up full screen.
I've just, are we going to talk about just briefly the what's going on in the Pacific because we have Marie,
Oh, yes,
and
let's do that. Let's do. Hold on one second.
and I'm just looking here. They have Marie going up to in 60 hours to 140 mile per hour, Joe. That's by far and away the strongest hurricane that they've had, I think, in the Pacific all season long.
Yeah,
Only,
stronger than Douglas. Let's see if I can pull up the right picture for this. Um,
only the fourth
yep, there it
hurricane.
is.
Yeah.
Uh, let's get a longer loop. Yeah, there's Marie, well south southwest of Baja California, and it is strengthening, no question. I don't see any sign of any shear, and the water temperatures there are at their seasonal peaks, so there's probably nothing that's going to stop this from developing. I'm curious though. Let me bring up the West Coast and take a look because there was some. I'll get the precip map. This is going to wind up going out to the west, so I'll roll it
Well,
back.
we talked about yesterday how this thing may actually go out and then go north and then try to curve back toward the west coast of North America.
Yeah, except now on this run, Joe, it goes out, starts to turn northwest and north, and of course at this point it's in cooler water, weakens pretty quickly as they like to do. Looks like it makes a turn to the northeast, and then it just falls apart completely, and the moisture starts getting pushed back out to the west. So perhaps let's see if there's another one behind it. Yeah, no, it doesn't really show very much of anything here with regards to from the last couple of days. It was trying to take Marie up a little closer and then deflecting it northwestward toward California as a weakening tropical system, which would at least bring the opportunities for some rain in there, but not this time. Looks like it is headed out. I'll bring up the Hurricane Center, Pacific side, see what they're doing with this. There's Marie, 65 knots. It's a minimal hurricane now. There's a little disturbance to the east of Marie that they're talking about as possibly developing. And on the advisory there, it's only the fourth hurricane of the season in the
Right.
Pacific.
I
Uh,
said that. Yeah.
yeah, I'm sorry. Yep, straight out keeps it a hurricane, moving west northwest forever. Gets north of 20 and west of 135, and that's it. So I guess this is not going to wind up getting deflected northwest and bringing California a little bit of rain in the long range. But we tried.
Well, we could still try.
Correct.
We could try to push.
So let's
I'm looking.
go ahead. I'm sorry,
I'm
Joe.
looking on the chat board here. Samada Mott wants to know if we can Joe and Joe read the chat. I've been watching the chat. The chat it suddenly moves very quickly, and then it stops and sits there for a few minutes, and then it
Yeah.
moves again. So I don't exactly know what's going on with the chat board tonight.
Yeah, chat board has issues, folks. Just want to also acknowledge, by the way, sick bay residents. William Uber got his had his oil changed, and the tires rotated yesterday with the little procedure that he had to have, and he's back home and he's watching us tonight. So, Bill, rest up and feel better, and you'll be 100% before you know it. And Scott Briller, still the chairman, still having difficulty here. It's a day-to-day thing, but he's trying. So he's got a few other things he's got to take care of medically. So hopefully he will be back at full swing in a few days or so. So we wish them both well as always. And Robert Russo, thank you for hitting super chat tonight. Really do appreciate it. And the chat board issues, by the way, are YouTube's and not mine, not ours. So just to let you know, we try. It's hard for us. Some days technology really works. Most days it works great, but every once in a while it throws a monkey wrench at you, and you get frustrated. What are you going to do?
Yep. Yep.
So let's see.
I don't have any Briller Jeopardy
I
questions.
think I have something. Hang on a second. Oh, come on.
Speaking of technology, folks.
There you go. All right, let me see if I can find. He did send some questions earlier today. Where is it? Oh, here we go. Okay. So, first question tonight for Le Jeopardy de Brillard. What was the highest temperature ever recorded in the month of October at the park?
I'm going to say I'll say 94.
If you said 94,
Yes.
Okay. Um, you hit it on the nose.
Thank you.
So you get an extra $100.
I I cheated actually, not cheated, but if you recall last year we got to 93 on October 2nd,
Right.
and this was a few days ago, and I said, "Boy, is that the hottest we've ever seen it?" And I did happen to see.
It was
Uh,
94 on October 2nd. So you get to 93 in early October, you'd think you'd have the dignity to break the record, but it has to happen on the day where the all-time record, um, the all-time record is. Um, okay, so the second question is, what is the lowest temperature at the park?
I would say 29.
Almost, but by Price is Right rules, you went over by one, so it's 28.
28.
Okay, but if it's the low temperature, I give you leeway. Where do 70% of the world's species come from?
The world's what?
70% of the world's animal species come from this are in this one particular area of the world.
I don't know. Olduvai Gorge in Africa.
No, and it's not Akron, Ohio, or or Peoria.
Right.
No, it's actually from India. India has 70% of the world's. They have a very diverse animal population in India,
Wow. Wow.
and they
So
have
not only do they have a lot of people, they have a lot of animals too.
70% of the world's species. Yes.
Yes.
Did you
Yes.
also know, by the way, that for all the consternation, and in all seriousness, for all the consternation with the rainforest, the Amazon rainforest, what do you know that the what area of the world actually is responsible for oxygenating most of this planet?
Oh. Well, I would. How about Siberia?
Actually, it's down. It's the South Atlantic, the South Ocean of the Atlantic and the Pacific, the surrounding Antarctica.
Really?
That area, yes, that area is responsible for absorbing most of the world's carbon dioxide. Believe it or not.
Well, I
Uh,
don't understand that because that part of the world doesn't have anywhere near the amount of
no, no.
overall.
I guess I. Let me rephrase the whole thing. Uh, the the, the trees in the rainforest absorb carbon dioxide. The trees of photosynthesis make oxygen. What I was getting at is that in terms of the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which is often talked about and debated over the causes of global warming, it's actually the southern oceans that absorb the vast majority of that carbon dioxide.
Okay. All right.
And if you don't believe me, okay, email David Attenborough of the of
Did you see, by the way, the interview with him on 60 Minutes on
what was
Sunday?
it? Oh, did they interview? Oh, I missed it. I wish I knew they were interviewing him.
I was
He's
actually thinking
he's
about
great.
contacting you or whatever to let you know because I
Well,
said,
I'm glad you
"Oh,
thought about contacting me.
Tim Beltman, thank you for hitting super chats tonight."
Thank you, Timothy, and I promise you I will go over that storm, that the severe weather round that happened in that February in 2006 as soon as I get my head together.
And
We'll take a look at it. Take a look
William
at
Huber
it.
wants to know or has asked me on the chat board, do I know southern Greenland's average snowfall for the year? No, I don't. But I'll tell you what, southern Greenland is about almost as far south as Newfoundland, and Newfoundland sometimes get a lot of snow. I really don't know. I have no clue what the average snowfall would be for southern Greenland.
I don't know either. Um, not I know that uh, they do probably have a rain snow changing to rain issue for a little while, but I imagine that doesn't last very long.
Right,
I don't know.
right.
I'm not. That'll be that's something to put on the list to research, Mr. Rayo. I guess you can
Bob
take a look and see what that is.
Bob Schieffer of CBS News used to say that when Walter Cronkite, who was the most curious man in the world, according to Bob Schieffer, Walter would sometimes ask a question that he needed to know. Unfortunately, he would ask the question 5 to 10 minutes before 6:30, before it was time to go to air. And one of the questions that Bob Schieffer says he remembers standing out was when Cronkite asked, "How long is Greenland?
How long is Greenland?
How long is Greenland?"
Well,
I don't know why he would ask a
it's
question like
pretty
that.
big.
Yeah, it is.
It ain't it's bigger than Long Island. We can tell you that.
Look, if you look at a Mercator map, it looks like it's bigger than even South America, but that's not really the case. So,
Did you also know that I saw this today? That the northern part of Brazil, the northernmost part of Brazil, is closer to Canada than it is to the southernmost part of Brazil.
the northernmost part of
The,
Brazil, well,
the,
wouldn't that
the,
make sense? The northernmost part of
no, the
Brazil?
distance between the northernmost part of Brazil and a point in southeastern Canada is
Oh,
actually
Pelé.
right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that distance is actually shorter than the distance from from that northern part of Brazil to the southern part of Brazil.
Okay, there you go.
That's the
There you go.
because
That's interesting.
you get a cold front with heavy rain and some wind, and all of a sudden we were all seeming to suffer from comprehension issues. Well, it must be in the air, uh, but no matter. So let's wrap it up tonight. I guess never mind. I don't even want to go down that road. I said to you before the show, I'm not going down that
Right,
road. We're not going to
right.
do it. Okay,
Okay,
so
good.
Robert Russo, Timothy Veltman, Scott Briller hitting super chat. You should be in bed, young man. You march into bed and pull over the covers. Finish Penny Dreadful, then move on to Away on Netflix,
By the way,
and go from there. Okay.
Scott, why is it you're picking up on your thing? It's not picking up on my chat board. Scott Briller for super chats tonight.
Yes, I just acknowledged that, and thank you.
Okay.
Although he should be in bed
Yes, he
with
should.
some chicken soup.
Yes, very much.
Full blown diet. Well, he's not to be serious. He's got acid reflux. His diabetes is kicked in full blown. Oh, he's got to get his bridge taken care of, in his with the dentist. His sodium is low, uh, but so apparently everything seems to be out of whack. So it's kind of like you've brought your car in for an oil change, and you find out that you have to have the brakes done. You
Right.
the transmission is messed up, and the exhaust system
That's why
has issues.
when you bring your car into the dealership for, let's say, an oil change, they most definitely are going to look at the car front, back, and if there's anything that's wrong, they're going to strongly recommend that you take care of it now.
Right.
So sometimes what you have in your mind for, let's say, $30 or whatever, could sometimes end up being inflated like 300. You better get that done soon as possible, or else.
Or else I can't make a boat payment.
Right.
$30 he brings up. What can you possibly get fixed anymore for
Well,
thirty
for oil, if
dollars?
you have the coupons and you go to a dealership for the oil change, they'll change the oil for like $30 for you.
Yeah, because then when they get you the one time that they're going to have to put air in your tires, and they charge you $900 because there's some screw loose somewhere that
No.
might impact your life if they don't put it back. Oh, good lord! All right, so enough. Um, let's relax, everybody. Have a great night. And Joe and I will see you tomorrow night. Just a heads up, I'm going on a road trip, so there'll be no show Friday and no show Saturday, but then we'll be back on Sunday. But we have a show tomorrow. But I just wanted to
Okay.
give everybody a heads up, and then
Very
it's
good.
gonna be touch and go for next week. We'll see how it plays.
Right.
Nighty night, Mr. Rayo.